Hi, this is Mrs. Brown from Research Triangle High School. The purpose of this video is to look at some of the revelations from Chapter 6 and some of the things that we learn about who is the real man behind the Great Gatsby. So this is the chapter where we really get some of the backstory. We know that he was born James Gatz in North Dakota, not out in the Midwest someplace as he's claimed a few times. We know that his parents were working class and that he himself actually worked as a custodian in order to get through college. And this kind of work humiliated him, being a janitor going around cleaning up after everybody else, and it hurt his pride so much that he actually dropped out after just 2 weeks. Now, after dropping out of college, he still went to work. He found little odd jobs around, and we know he was working that summer up and around Lake Superior, and he was fishing for clams and salmon, and one day he looks out at the ocean and he sees this gorgeous, expensive boat, this huge yacht, and he sees that, there's a storm coming in, so he decides whether he had this idea in his head that he might get some profit out of it, or whether he really is being altruistic. We're really not sure, but at any rate, he rows out to meet the owner and to warn him, hey, there's a big storm coming in. Now, that yacht owner happens to be no one other than Dan Cody. Now, Dan Cody is part of this sort of nouveau riche, these new rich people. He's a self-made millionaire. He invested a lot in copper mining and then in selling to make this fortune. And he's so impressed with this handsome young man who takes the initiative to come out and help him that he says, you know what, stick around here, I'll teach you a few things. And Gatsby kind of becomes his personal assistant. And mostly his job is to keep Cody safe when Cody gets so drunk and passed out that he could do something dangerous or damaging. So he kind of becomes this sort of keeping after, or some person to keep after Dan Cody to make sure that he doesn't get in trouble when he gets drunk. Now, I think he actually thought that Cody might help him and take him into his company and his business and make his fortune, but Dan Cody died rather suddenly, and his new wife didn't really have a great appreciation for Gatsby. And even though Cody had left money to Gatsby to help him get started in life, the new wife made sure that Gatsby saw none of that money. But in the meanwhile, Gatsby had seen firsthand what life was like on the other side, how the rich live, and he decided to claim this kind of American dream for himself. So without having that rich person to help him out and without having that from his family, he has to go make it himself. So he decides to go into the army because that's one way that you can advance in rank based on merit. And then we know some of this other story, part of the story from Jordan Baker. While he's in the army, he meets Daisy. And Daisy herself represents everything that had been denied to Gatsby, everything that he had seen and thought that he deserved or was due or could get that he sees in her. Daisy represents an entire upper class that had rejected Gatsby, the kids who laughed at him when he was cleaning up in the hallway, the rich wife of Dan Cody who cut him out of the money. And at first he kind of has, if you read between the lines, sort of dishonorable intentions. His intent is really to just seduce her and then dump her, but he actually seems to fall in love instead. Now, if there's one thing about Jay Gatsby that we learn, it's that he is smart and he learns. Gatsby learned a lot from watching Cody. First of all, he saw this rich lifestyle firsthand and was determined to have it for himself. Secondly, he learned never to drink, because when you drink, you give up that self-control. You don't have control anymore of how you're behaving, and other people can take advantage of this. And this is one of the reasons why you see him, even though he's surrounded by illegal alcohol all the time, he himself almost never drinks. He got cheated out of the inheritance, and this made him sort of question or mistrust the law and the legal aspect, and that may be part of why he was willing to maybe get into some of the bootlegging things, and that's sort of part of his business. And he sees that it's all about who you know, who your connections are, who your daddy is, who your friends are, who you get married to. And these connections become really, really important, and Gatsby knows he's going to have to build this up if he's going to get Daisy. And just to review again a little bit, now that we can see Jay Gatsby's side of the story, to piece together what Jordan Baker had told Nick a little bit earlier. We know that Gatsby and Daisy had this romance that her parents disapproved. Rich girls don't marry poor boys, Jay Gatsby. We know that Daisy for all that she was a flighty teenager, she did try to wait for him. We know that she held on to his last letter for so long, but we also know that Daisy is sort of shallow and impatient. And when Tom comes along, he's handsome, he's new, she's kind of given up on Gatsby. And even though she almost calls off at the wedding at the last minute, she goes ahead and marries Tom and settles into life with him. But Gatsby comes back, and he comes back a changed man. He actually did well in the war. That medal that he floats around is actually true. He did serve as a good soldier. He won this medal. Afterwards, the army did send him to Oxford, and he got to study there for a short time. He didn't go to school there for 4 years and graduate, but he was indeed an Oxford student. We know that he can't wait to get back to the USA because he's determined to win Daisy back. And when he buys that house across the bay from her with that green light out there, that's his go light. That's his everything that he's reaching for, his entire dream. He wants to compete with Tom, that this house that he's built, even the type of shirts that he's bought, are all designed to prove to Daisy that he is worthy of her, that he can keep up with Tom. And he believes in his heart that Daisy never really wanted to marry Tom at all, that she was just sort of forced into it, that she really has always loved him, always will love him, and that Tom is just kind of an inconvenient road bump in their relationship. So we get a little bit more of a glimpse in this chapter about why Gatsby is great. He is the epitome of the self-made man who claims the American dream. He renames himself. It's not just where you come from, it's who you make yourself out to be. That classic idea of self-determination as the American dream. He chooses his own name, he makes his own fortune, he gets the girl, he never gives up, and he works and he makes his dream come true. Now, Gatsby's biggest obstacle to keeping the American dream is reality. He can't accept that Daisy was ever happy with Tom, not even for a moment. And the fact that she's got a daughter makes it really hard for him to keep this fantasy in mind that she's just been sort of living with him because she was forced to all of this time. The child makes it much harder to believe in this fantasy. Daisy, on the other hand, is much more realistic. She really does love Jay. It's her childhood sweetheart. It's who she always dreamed that she'd be with. But she can't deny that, she really was happy with Tom for a while, that in the beginning there, that it wasn't all terrible in their relationship. And that starts to bring us to this tragic journey that Gatsby is going on. Is Daisy worth it? Gatsby's fatal flaw may be that even though he claimed the American dream, maybe he claimed the wrong dream. Maybe she really wasn't worth working for. Sure, she's beautiful and rich and desirable and upper class, but she's also shallow, careless in what she does and who she hurts and gets involved with. She can't really live up to Gatsby's expectations of her. So Gatsby has this great American dream, but is it really just a dream and not something that can ever be a reality?